I've worked for 8 months at something for free with nothing in return. Just focused, passionate, interesting, and hard work. Woke up nights continuously on end to see where the work would lead me. It made me look like my grandpa in a matter of months. The obsession from waking up to going to bed with a constant excitement to see internally motivating results really moved the needle in ways I never thought it could. But when the results finally started hitting, everything made sense and it just clicked. I couldn't exactly tell what clicked, but everything I did felt purposeful and made sense and wasn't a random feeling of what the duck am I doing with my life anymore. These nitty gritty details are always undisclosed, not because they're boring and nobody wants to share them, but because once you focus on how you're feeling in those moments, your momentum drops and you lose the focus you had. But when you reach that golden point where the wheel slowly starts to turn, you still can't tell what you're doing differently. You just know that doing X, Y, and Z is gonna produce results now. Active obsession in itself means an iterative cycle. When you think of different parts of something in itself without looking at what works for you or what has worked for others in the past, and just think about changing up every little part of your work, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem, it creates little changes in your outcome. Since you didn't know if it was something right that you made the change on, the result of that is often insignificant and indeterministic. At that point, if you're not obsessed, you keep questioning your actions, whether you should make another attempt, whether chasing this is worth it or not. But when you're obsessed, you don't have any time for that. Because now you're too invested in changing up some other component and running the same cycle again. Laser focus enables you to forget about the results and focus on outcome and the net delta you get out of the delta you made before running the process, and you measure that without getting your emotions about the results impacting that. That's a golden mindset right there. When you don't let your emotions of the results get involved and measure the output change based on your input change of a cycle of the system you're working on. But that will not work again and again, unfortunately. And that grows on you because it gets difficult. Because none of us really have that amount of time or energy, in this economy at least, to keep putting in effort into something just for continuous meaningless results. Or worse, not even letting yourself check what the fruit of your efforts truly are. That's a huge mental hurdle to overcome. Huge enough that it might possibly be what makes you a stronger person. But wait. What happens in your head when you're going through the motions? You're constantly thinking, you're a failure. Somewhere deep down, you know that this isn't gonna work. It's just a matter of time until I fail and give up. That's what I kept thinking those first 8 months. None of this is ever gonna bear any fruit. But the only thing that kept me going was, what if it might? Something does change. You don't have any proof of concept yet, no success, but you do have some delta in your outputs for your inputs. That has to account for something, right? Even if you ignore the results, that's something. That's the only meaningful entity that I keep feeding myself going through that. Because before that, I never really had any major proof of result for no matter what I worked on. But what was that? Something actually started making sense? There was some sort of meaningful results starting to emerge? That felt impossible, except it wasn't. When you build off of others' work and find success, that's great. That's still your own creation with some proof of concept. But when you build something that at first sounds unrealistic and hilarious of an idea, and then when it shows some tangible results, no matter how much insanity, that feels absolutely out of this world. A near ethereal experience. But that does something in your brain. Something that all of us know but never bothered to truly reflect on ourselves about what that really is. The fact that you have to trust your patience and obsession for the vision you've developed is tough. Of course, something you will absolutely fail and have to give up, and that's normal. But for other things, there's a vision you keep seeing, and you know it in your heart that it's possible, that no matter how many people say it isn't. When you get over that invisible wall of impossible in your head for the first time, now you have proof of concept that you can build something out of nothing. You know that there's others' words which matter lesser and lesser, and there's this superficial energy that wants to stop you at the start. But once you keep hammering at it again and again, it's bound to start shaping into the reality that you see. Now you never know how to predict that time period for when that hammering is actually going to give you a solid shape. But until it does, you have to keep analyzing the input and output changes and make little improvements. Except now, you already have a superficial proof of concept from the things that have already worked for you in the past. Now you understand that it's a universal force that's stopping you for a certain understanding, not time, a certain understanding. Because, of course, there's a roughly longer estimate of time needed in proportion to the crazier of an entity you build. But still, the universe is just looking for a signal. It's looking for you to hit on the most impactful thing as soon as possible, and that cuts down the time delays by many folds. And having that understanding in your mind gives you a new way to see how your effort at anything matters. You're just running a few functions of time and effort to change the things that matter in your pursuit. Locating what's important, what you need to build, how you can build it, how to prioritize what you can build will be some of your most important tools in your arsenal. Hopefully, I can help you improve those understandings as we both build things that are meaningful to us.